Hello and welcome to another knee-jerk video review. Again, my standard disclaimer stands. I will talk about the movie. I try not to do too many spoilers, but there will be spoilers. So if you don't like spoilers, don't listen to my review. This movie I watched, again, you can see it's daylight out, so it's not the prime time to watch a horror movie, but I was really bored. I was just flipping through watchable movies. I saw this one. This is called The Unfolding. The Unfolding horror movie. It's in the well, I guess you'd call it found footage category. Everything on it was recorded with hand cameras and stationary cameras. Um, it starts out with this couple arriving at this house. They're psychic researchers and they're students of a professor, and they came, and of course, it's a horror movie, so things unfold. The whole start of the movie, the whole first hour of the movie, very long and drawn out, very, very long and drawn out. I thought the front credits were going to take forever, and I've been watching a lot of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and I'm like, one of their comments is always like, "Hey, start the movie now. You can start the movie anytime now." And it just seemed like the movie took forever to start. And there was this whole prologue where they're walking through the moors, and totally unnecessary, but I guess they're trying to build mood or something. But very, very long beginning. But then things start picking up. So I like a good horror movie, and I haven't reviewed too many horror movies, but that's a genre I watch a lot. And I like a good, the more wild and scary it is, the better. I like moody. I don't like jump scares. This movie, um, well, it had some jump scares, and there's a difference between startling someone and bringing out a fear of an emotion, a scary emotion. This one, at the beginning, when it was really long and boring, relied on jump scares. And, at first I'm like, I'm not liking this movie. It's jump scares. Love the house, though. The house is just all twists and turns, and gorgeous house, gorgeous setting. Um, Great. I think the acting is very good for for people who aren't actors, basically. Um, at least I've never seen them in anything else, but they did a pretty good job. They, at no point, I know the last horror movie I watched was just horrible. I barely got, I think it was the Ouija experiment or something. It was horrible. I could not, the acting was like fifth grade play level. But this, like, you actually believed you were watching found footage. As a ghost story goes, standard stuff. I've seen this a lot where, the ghost story centers around a child that was molested. So you have two ghosts. You have the scared child ghost, and you have this big, malevolent monster ghost that's behind it all. And of course, this couple first arrives, and then one of their friends arrives. The professor arrives, and he calls in a psychic. The professor, he explains that, the house is on a fault line, and when the fault line, there's stresses, and stresses create electromagnetic fields, and these affect people. Does it make them more psychic, or does it make them hallucinate? And this is a real field of study. I mean, people have actually studied this, that electromagnetic fields can make you hallucinate, like that there's someone else in the room. So they kind of I like the fact that they base it on that. But it got creepier and creepier as you go along. I kind of enjoyed when it did start to unfold. Like I said, the beginning was so long, but when it did start to unfold, like, I enjoyed it. The cameras, how they in movies they'll place cameras around the house because they're researchers, and these cameras had the worst video, and they probably did that on purpose. But like, it's real low res video, and you can barely make out what's on it. You're kind of looking and like, oh, this is really low res. Am I supposed to see something here? There was a couple, then there's the high res shots. And the thing is, as well as this was set up, there were some bizarre elements. Like, throughout the show, they're playing the radio, and the radio is talking about events unfolding in Europe. leading to World War III. And I'm thinking, okay, because the movie's supposed to take place in 2016, and I'm like, okay, so not only is this like a ghost story, but it's taking place what we call like an alternate timeline, because obviously the world didn't end in 2016. But at one point they look up in the sky and they see long-range bombers flying overhead. And then you listen to the radio and they're talking about nuclear deterrence, and then it gets really sad. Like the announcer is saying goodbye to everyone, and may God have mercy on our souls, and it was just kind of bizarre. But that was just like really in the background and just barely. I don't even know why they would include something like this, because the ghost story itself would have stood on its own. So you got the creepy elements, you got the discovering what it was. There's some, I don't know if I'm using this term correctly, but I've used it in like a lot of my horror reviews. But the Doak Machina, where like someone comes in and just explains everything. I don't like that reveal. And of course, first the professor comes in and explains everything scientifically, and then the medium comes in and explains everything paranormally. Now, as long as the paranormal and stuff works within the show and they keep it consistent, that's fine. It's great. It makes a good movie and everything's consistent. The ghosts, you catch glimpses of them. You never see the full ghost. You catch glimpses of them, and you see the reactions of the people, and it built, and it was very good. And there's moments in the professor or the medium are both like, these are time slips where they went outside and there's this beautiful flower garden, but then they turn around and the flower garden's gone and it's all weeds. And time slips are another thing. That's a whole area of paranormal thing, but it's something real that people believe in. So I like it. I like that the movie brought real elements into the movie. And again, the acting was great. A couple things I didn't like about it, and I don't really like to criticize, but a couple things I didn't like about it was the and this is a spoiler alert, so if you don't like spoilers, turn this off now. But one of the things I didn't like was the kind of ending where everyone dies and there's no resolution. And in this one, they take it a step further, because not only does everyone die, but nuclear bombs go off and destroy the house. And you're like, what the fuck was that? And it's just crazy. And the movie could have stood alone, like it could have stood as a ghost story, but why did they throw this nuclear holocaust stuff in there? I don't know. They never connected the two. The only connection between the two was, at the end when everything is gone, because it's like, the voices on the radio, they could have played anything on the radio. They could have played, I don't know, a kid die, something that would have tied the story in, but they didn't. They just kept playing this world is ending on the radio, and then who knew, the world does end at the end of the movie. But I liked the movie. I would give it 2.5 out of 5, maybe 5 out of 10. Halfway through. The good points, great acting. Even though it was shaky cam, it was found footage type thing. It was all portable camera stuff. It was probably the best portable camera stuff I've seen. It didn't make me sick. It didn't make me go crazy. It didn't make me want to shake someone. It was just really done well. There was a couple points where like they show the door open and you see two eyes coming, but then they cut. And I'm like, why didn't they show what was on that camera? So that was kind of frustrating. But the way the cuts between the stationary cameras and the handheld cameras, and the points that were clear, the points that were blurry, I think whoever directed and did this kind of has a feel for that. And I think this all started with the Blair Witch Project, and now everything's a shaky cam found footage thing. But this was done really well, and I do appreciate that. And the acting was really good. At no point did I think, because when you watch these type of really low budget movies like this, you think a bunch of friends got together and made the movie. But this felt more professional, and it didn't feel like a bunch of friends got. They were real. It just felt like it was real. there was no bad acting that took me out of the movie. So the acting was great. The camera work was great. Some of the writing, I'm not a big fan of a psychic coming in and explaining everything. I'm not a big fan of seances that reveal stuff. They had some of that. And again, at the end, I don't know why this movie had to be put in the framework of the end of the world. And it didn't tie into each other. It just was, it's like, hey, let's have a gimmick, you know. And the other thing is that kind of, you know, if you're people in this house and the radio's talking about the end of the world, wouldn't you go home to your families? Why would you stay and try to solve this mystery? You know, so the whole nuclear thing didn't have a part in this movie. It needs to be cut out and reshot, because they would have left and gone with their families, and you know, it's the end of the world. But they didn't. They stayed because they wanted to confront this ghost that was molesting girls, and you know, it's so the writing. Whoever wrote this needs to work on their writing a little bit. Make it just take out the stuff that just doesn't belong. And I've said this in all my movie reviews. You know, this part didn't belong. The last movie I watched was called the Chicklet. Another British movie. Great. You know, it was a good movie. And again, right in the middle of the movie, this woman is, you know, died. You know, there's horrible news. And it's never mentioned before in the movie. It's never mentioned again in the movie. And you're like, why was this one scene ever put in this movie? And that's what I asked myself about, is this. And this, you know, as far as the horror part goes, I don't know. Like I said, I watched it at daylight. It's, you know, it's getting summer, so the sun's staying up later, and I just had to watch something. And I don't know if this would have made any difference if I watched it at midnight. It just, it had a good story, and it did create. I mean, there were some jump scares, but there were also some things where, you know, there were some decent special effects and practical special effects, which I thought was cool. And they did creep you out. I did feel kind of creepy, as much as I would have at night, or, you know, is this a date movie? Maybe. You know, maybe, but the ending would have made you go, huh? You know, that kind of would have ruined your date. As a movie, yeah, I would recommend watching it if there's nothing else. Let's see, if you're a fan of horror movies, like I am, and I've watched some of the most bizarre, because I watched like the Korean horror movies and the Japanese and Chinese. They just have these bizarre horror movies. And you know, so there was a point in my life where that's all I watched was horror movies. So I kind of got into the genre. But this was well done, just not well written. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I said, camera work, acting great, writing meh, and stuff that doesn't belong, blah. So like I said, maybe halfway through, 2.5 stars out of 5, 5 stars out of 10. It's a movie you do have to sit and watch. I don't know if I'd put it on while I was doing the dishes or something, because then you're going to miss, you know, the things that go in front of the camera and stuff. And the slow beginning. I didn't like the slow beginning. They could have cut that whole section out. But yeah, I'd give it halfway, whatever the rating is. And if you've ever seen any of my other video reviews, I don't have a rating system, so I just make it up at the end. So it's a halfway. It's a 50 out of 100. It's a 1,000 out of 2,000. So it's called I forgot the name of it already. And again, I just came from there. The Unfolding. Yeah, it's called The Unfolding. That'll be the title of my review anyway. But The Unfolding, I watch it if you can't find anything better. How's that? And it's on Hulu, so it's free. So go ahead. I'm going to wrap it up, and I hope you enjoyed this review and check out some of my other reviews. Also, the book on Amazon. Catch you later.